Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tech and Tuesday, this April the 5th, 2011. This is episode number 324, and we've got a very special guest on today, Mr. Gene Marks. Now, he is a small business management columnist, author, speaker, and business owner. And he writes an online column for the New York Times, Forbes, as well as monthly and biweekly columns for Business Week and the American City Business Journals. And you're really going to love having Gene on the show. So don't go away. We'll be right back with this week's edition of Tech and Tuesday. And we want to remind you, if you're following or watching us on Justin.tv, come over to live.frugalbrothers.com. That is where the live chat room that we moderate. We also want to remind everybody that we are sponsored by GFI Software, the makers of GFI Mail Essentials. We got some exciting news coming up about Mail Essentials in the next couple of weeks that we want to share with you. But for a full working evaluation, come to frugalbrothers.com and click the Solutions button, and you can download a full working evaluation copy of Mail Essentials. I also want to mention briefly, before we bring our guest on, I'm giving away an iPod Touch, an Apple iPod Touch, 32-gigabyte model, and we're going to be doing that May the 31st. It's on a Tuesday. How do you win? Well, number one, you have to be a resident within the United States in order to win. Number two, you need to follow us on Justin.tv. Number three, follow us on YouTube. Be here on Tuesday, May the 31st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be asking a question about the sponsor of the giveaway, Lifeboat Distribution, and the first person that emails me back with the correct answer will be declared the winner. So we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great contest. Let's go ahead. And one more thing about Gene. He's also a CPA of all things. I don't know how he does it. He's got a successful 10-person firm that provides technology and consulting services in addition to all the cool stuff that he's doing. Let's go ahead and bring Gene on right now. Hey, Gene, how are you today?
Bruce, how are you? And remember, even though I do say I'm a CPA, I'm not a very good CPA. So I don't want anybody asking me to do their taxes. They will regret it. Okay. I keep the certification because we sell QuickBooks and Great Plains, But
right.
I just when I was practicing accounting, if it was close enough, it was good enough. And that's just not the way you want to be if you're an accountant. So don't hire me to do your books.
Okay, we hear you loud and clear. So that just get that message, everybody. Don't ask Gene any tax tips today.
Please.
Let's go ahead and get right to it. Gene, would you please give our audience a little bit of background on yourself and what the Marks Group PC does?
Yeah, sure. We're a 10-person company. We sell 6 software applications, and we provide the services around them. So 4 of them are CRM applications. So we sell Act, and we sell Goldmine. We sell Zoho CRM, and we sell Microsoft CRM as well, both hosted in the on-premise version. And then we also sell QuickBooks software, and we sell Great Plains. And 7 applications, actually, because we sell a product called Heat Software, which is
Remember Heat, right. I used to be a gold mine reseller years ago. I mean, we're talking back in the 90s, before they were bought by Front Range.
Right. Now, did you lose all your hair like me from selling gold mine? Because I'm pretty sure that's what caused it.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't really track it down to that, but you might have a good point right there.
How did that synchronization work for you, Bruce?
Oh, it was awful. You mean Gold Sync, right?
Correct.
Gold Sync.
Right.
Yeah, so I think the last time I worked with it was called Front Office 2000 was when I got out of the gold, actually sold my company. But at any rate, so I guess since you're doing this kind of tech, I got to ask you this question. What prompted you to become a technology and business journalist? In addition, I mean, that's quite a diverse path there.
Yeah, I mean, I like to write. So when I was in high school, I was the editor of my school paper, and I worked on my college paper as well. So I like to write, and I needed therapy, Bruce. I mean, I sell technology, which a great deal of time does not work very well. So I needed to do something that would be a really great sort of change of pattern for me, that would kind of take my thoughts away from the day-to-day and agonies of running the business and kind of focus me on something else. And I love it. I tell you what's interesting is that if I'm writing like a blog or a column, say I'm going to write something for Forbes, and I know I do that on Monday, I'm thinking about it the week before. So, instead of coming out of a client meeting where they're like upset because there's a bug in the software or something's not working, I kind of clear my head a little bit and I'm thinking about something completely different. And it's very therapeutic for me. Plus, when I write, I get to complain about a lot of different things about running a small business.
I know. I've read your columns. But how did this happen? Just clear blue. Did they just reach out to you? Did MSNBC reach out to you? How were you discovered, I guess?
I'll tell you specifically. First of all, I did write a few books. So I've written 5 books.
Okay.
And that in itself is a whole other conversation about how you actually become a published author. But I did manage to get some books out there. In the course of writing, 1 or 2 of those books, I was contributing a lot of guest commentary to our local business journal. I live in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So I was just without being asked, just sending in commentary because they have like a guest opinion column there, and they printed a few of them because they liked them and whatever. And like Bruce, like everything else in life, timing is everything. I went to the Philadelphia Business Journal and said, I'd love to write a continuing column on running a small business and tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I happened to walk in the door and pitch it to them at the time where they were actually thinking of making changes in the paper. So in life, it's a lot of it's skill, a lot of it's just showing up to work, and some of it is just luck. And that was luck. So I started, they said, okay, we'll do that. So I started contributing a bi-weekly column to the Philadelphia Business Journal. And then I said I wanted to move out a little bit. So I pitched a bunch of major, magazines as well, like Forbes and Fortune and Entrepreneur. And, having a couple books behind me and having this, bi-weekly column, I could then had a little bit of leverage to go out to those guys and say, I'd like to write something for you.
Right.
And I sent them in example after example after example, and I got blown off a lot until one pathetic editor at Forbes said, "Okay, that's fine. Let's meet and get together." And he agreed to have me then contribute to Forbes. And then from there, after doing that for a couple of years, I was asked to write for the New York Times. So one thing kind of leads to another,
Right. No, it does, and ultimately you get people read your stuff and say, if you're looking to get some new material for the magazine or paper, check this person out. And that's kind of how it works.
Right.
Right. So it kind of all snowballs.
But I can tell you, if you're a technology guy, or for any of your viewers that are watching this and they're like, I'd really like to write, there really is a big demand out there for content. There's a lot of websites out there that are looking for good stuff and something that kind of sets themselves apart. So you really have to have 2 things. You have to have something that you want to say, and you have to have the ability to say it a lot. So
yeah.
I write a lot. I write like these 2 columns every week, and then another column every other week, and then I contribute about once a month, once every other month to Business Week as well. So I do write a lot because I really love to write. You gotta love doing it, and you gotta have at least something to say. There's people out there that'll publish you if you keep digging at it and keep sending them stuff.
Well, how does that morph then into being picked up by like broadcast networks for interviews? Is that all part of it, or is
it is
that something different?
Well, it's funny because what I like to do is I like to speak public groups out, and I like to go to business associations. I like to go to tomorrow I'm speaking to the Association of Corrugated Box Containers, believe it or not, in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And next week I'm speaking at an association of equipment manufacturers. I speak like 2 or 3 times a month, right?
Okay.
So to do that, I have a person that I've hired to help me land these speaking gigs. And part of that is showing me out there in the media. So she is also taking everything that I'm writing and pitching TV stations. and
Okay.
saying, Gene wrote you'd be an interesting guest on your TV show. And the reason why is because when you're going out to try and be a public speaker, people like to see that you've been in the media, you've some type of, people kind of know your name a little bit. So they see, oh, he was on Fox News, or oh, he was with Sean Hannity or Lou Dobbs or whatever. It attracts people that book speaking engagements. That's why we went after that.
So do you have an agent, more or less? Is that what this person does?
She's not. She is
Okay.
this awesome person named Karen. Karen Manza, her name is, and I'll give her a
Okay.
plug. She worked with me on one of my books. I did this book called The Book of Lists, and it had this book has about 500 lists that's answered questions posed by small business owners, like the top 10 tax deductions for small businesses, or the top 10 things you should ask your attorney before hiring him. And I hired some college kids to help me put all this together. She was one of those college kids. She went to St. Joe's University outside of Philadelphia. And she was so good that I hired her and brought her on with me. So she now works for me 40 hours a week. So she does marketing for me, she talks to TV stations for me, she talks to the media for me, and she books speaking gigs for me. So it's an investment. So it's not only me spending the time writing and running the Marks Group, selling the software and all of that, but I'm paying somebody 40 hours a week to be out there selling and marketing for me. It's an investment, and it's taken time. It's not like I'm sitting here ready to retire tomorrow. It's been building and building and building over the years, which has been great, but you got to be prepared to pay the money.
So you're paying your dues, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Still paying them.
And where do you think this is going to end up at for you, Gene?
Right now I'm 46 years old. When I like to tell people when I speak, look ahead to what you want to be doing 20 years from now or 30 years from now, and then whatever you're doing, have that goal in mind. So what I want to do 20 years from now, I want to be running the Marks Group, and I want to be selling the same type of technology, but it may be whatever that is at the day that's helping our clients do things quicker and better. So, I want to have a 10-person company. I don't want to be, ruler of the world and making profits doing that and having a good time. Plus, I'd like to be speaking 3-4 times a month all around the world, talking about the political and economic and cultural events that affect the small business and the business community. And I intend to be doing that. I just hope to be getting paid even more because I'm that better well known for it, and I have that much more experience, and maybe I'm sort of a wizened old sage at that point, and people see more value in it.
Well, fair enough. I was watching a very interesting video from TED, TED.
Yeah.
And one of the folks on there, they're a Harvard graduate. I think they have a master's degree from business, Harvard.
Right.
And one of the things that we're talking about is so many business people, if you ask them, what do you do? I mean, they know what they do, what they sell, what products they make, and so forth. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them will even know how they do it. But many have a hard time answering this question, which I'm posing to you today. Mm-hmm. Why do you do what you do?
Right. I'm doing what I'm doing right now so I can be financially comfortable, live a balanced life, and have a good time. That's what I want out of my life. And we all have to make that same decisions, internally. But make no mistake about it. I don't want to be, I don't need to be a multi-gazillionaire, but I'm running a business to make profits. And I'm running around the country like an idiot on planes and sleeping in Hampton Inns and all that to make money doing it. Because I have 3 kids, Bruce, that are in 10th grade right now, and all 3 of those kids are going to be going to college in 2.5 years. So I'm imploring everybody in the audience, if you'd like to send me $1, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's what the goal is.
Yeah, I put a daughter through college a few years back, and it was painful.
Yeah,
they're always broke.
3 at the same time, and they're not smart enough to get scholarships.
And Gene, I'll tell you right now, they're always going to be broke. You'll be sending care packages, and Dad,
I know. It's funny because my dad told me the same thing. He said the biggest surprise he got out of being a father was that your kids are still needy even when they're 25 and 30 years old. So I got to brace myself.
Well, ask you need to give your mom a call, say, Gene.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you ask why I'm doing it.
I want to know why you do what you do.
There's a balance aspect to it as well.
Okay. Well, profit, I think a lot of people come up and they say, well, it's for profit. And a profit is simply a result of what you're doing.
Right.
And I'm getting the sense that you have a passion for small business people and and business technology. Am I right in that subject?
It's because of the profits. There is nothing better than when I read or I bump into something or I learn from somebody about some way some guy is making a few extra bucks in his business. Some guy figured out a way to succeed with Groupon that nobody else did.
Right.
Or somebody's figured out to take a mobile payment on their phone and it's like increasing their productivity by doing it, and they've cut their bank fees. When I hear that, man, I'm like, wow, that is great for two reasons. One is that maybe I can use that to profit me because it's, if there's a selfish reason. But number two is I want to write about that, and I want to get out and I want to talk to the other business owners that I talk to and say, oh, I just learned this great way to really take advantage of Groupon and make some money off of this. It's really exciting to share that information. And, it's funny, your audience are technical people, right?
Yes.
So, as a technical person, we all know, we deal with bugs and blue screens and things that don't work and this and whatever. I got to tell you, when I write something, I get people saying, oh, I really enjoyed what you wrote. Or when I go out and I speak to a group of people and you have people coming up to you and saying that was really great. You feel great because you help people out that way. And in our business, your business and my business, we spend so much time like fixing problems and getting paid for things, or your clients are grumbling at you because you're a sort of a necessary evil. Speaking of the writing has been a way where I feel good about it. You know what I mean? If it makes me feel real good inside that I'm helping people out with that kind of advice.
All right. Now you specialize in doing CRM applications like Goldmine,
right?
Microsoft Dynamics CRM,
right?
You mentioned ACT,
right?
Zoho,
right?
And also you're doing some stuff with QuickBooks as well. But how did you get into the CRM side of things? I understand you were an accountant and QuickBooks is a given, but the CRM thing how did that business morph and come about?
Sure. Well, I spent 9 years at KPMG in Philadelphia, and I did really well there because I was an auditor. So we would audit big companies. So if you made a $50,000 mistake, it usually wasn't that big a deal, which was perfect for me.
That'd be killer for me.
Yeah. So I didn't have to worry about being that exact as an auditor. But working for KPMG, as great a firm as it was, you really have to give your heart and soul into it. And usually the benefit of becoming a partner there was they would transfer you to some startup office and God knows where. So, it wasn't something I wanted to do for my entire life, right? So I joined up with my dad. My dad had developed the world's worst bookkeeping software ever invented. He had sunk about $2 million into it. Not only was it not finished, but he was trying to take it to the market at the time when QuickBooks was started to launch out. So this was like in the late 1980s, early 1990s.
Okay.
So to patch things together, the stuff that his accounting software didn't do, he started using Goldmine. And this was the Goldmine version for DOS, Bruce.
Okay.
You have fond memories of that.
Yeah.
But he would use Goldmine to track orders and other stuff that it wasn't even designed to do, but he made it do it because his accounting software wouldn't do it, right?
Okay.
So I joined up with my father, being an idiot, and we started muddling along with it and realizing that his accounting software wasn't that great. But I was realizing that Goldmine was pretty good as a contact manager and a good organizer and a work group thing. And it was really, after a long discussion saying, Dad, the accounting software is great and all that, but I think we can make more money with Goldmine. I think it has a lot more appeal. And I've always been more of sort of a sales and marketing type person than an accountant. And it was just a lot more fun teaching people how to increase their sales or do better marketing or communicate better with their clients or customers, as opposed to, how to send out an invoice better or cut a check faster,
Right.
So we got into Goldmine because of that. And then one thing led to another. We just started adding products. And thank God the year 2000 came around because my dad, his software wasn't year 2000 compliant. And oh, shucks, we had to abandon it. And we had to take on somebody else's product like Great Plains and a couple other softwares at the time. So that was actually a good thing for us. Right. My dad wasn't happy about it, but I was. So anyway, so that's how we got into the CRM side. And I have to tell you, Bruce, that the CRM stuff is fun. It's just, again, it's about your email and your calendaring. It's just your day-to-day activities and increasing sales and productivity in your company. I love it way more than I do the actual accounting and ERP stuff. Although I realize that stuff is really important too.
So why did you pick, let's talk about Microsoft CRM for just a moment. Why did you pick that product?
Because so many people were saying, we don't want a CRM software unless it's inside of Outlook. And that was it. And you had to have seen the same thing.
Yeah.
People were saying, we would show them ACT or Goldmine, And they're, well, but we use Outlook. We want to use Outlook, and I had nothing. Well, it synchronizes with Outlook and this and that, but I had nothing. And then Microsoft back in 2003 came out with CRM. We were one of the first partners to jump on the bandwagon. And I remember the first year we did about 10 or 12 implementations. They all were the same type of groups. There was heavy Microsoft users, heavy IT shops, heavy Outlook users, and heavy drinkers. Because
sounds about right.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
That sounds about right.
The guys that had the attitude were the guys that were big Jack Daniels fans,
Oh, boy.
But Microsoft got itself together. I mean, did you know that they skipped Microsoft CRM? They came out with their first version, and then everybody knows that Microsoft doesn't get anything right until version 3.
They skipped version 2. They went right to version 3.
They actually skipped. Yeah, they skipped version 2.0 altogether. They went from version 1.0 to 3.0, which I thought was pretty funny. And but they got their act together. 3.0 was good, 4.0 was very good, and now their most recent version is actually really, really good. So we got into it because it was an Outlook-based application. And now when we go to clients, we have those options. I mean, if you're really into an Outlook-based shop and you're a Microsoft shop, it's really, really good.
Just for your reference, do you remember how painful contact2.dbf and concept was? I have flashbacks.
Now you just lost half of your audience.
Dude, I just want, just for old time's sake,
switching off right now.
Oh my God, that was so horrible. Actually, we use Microsoft CRM here as well. Hosted, we have a hosted version of it, and it works great for what we do. You mentioned Zoho. I did a review on Zoho a while back, maybe about 2 years ago, I guess.
Right.
It's made some tremendous leaps and bounds, and which you can actually get up to 3 free users. Zoho, you getting a lot of action on that, Gene?
Yeah, we have a couple dozen clients that use it. It's a good alternative as a hosted application. I call it the poor man's Salesforce.com. It's $25 a user a month. If you're into Google, it integrates really well with Google Apps as well. It's got a QuickBooks connector. It's got an Outlook connector. So it's a good alternative. I mean, say you hate Microsoft, and there's plenty of people out there that hate Microsoft, or you're a Google shop, or and you want something that has a whole suite of products. So it was good. I'll tell you. So I wish we had more than 10 people because there are other really good applications out there. I mean, High-Rise CRM is excellent, and Salesforce.com is a great application.
Right.
Now we may become Salesforce. I don't know if you saw yesterday or a couple days ago, but Salesforce.com and Intuit, the guys that make QuickBooks, they just announced a big partnership together.
Really?
Yeah, they just announced this, which basically means finally QuickBooks is going to have some type of a CRM product to integrate with will be supported by Intuit, and it's going to be Salesforce. So I'm really curious to see what they do there, because if they go down the road that I hope that they do, we're going to start providing Salesforce.com to our clients, particularly our QuickBooks clients.
Do you ever foresee Google actually stepping up the plate and doing their own CRM thing, or do you think they're going to keep things rocking with Salesforce?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Bruce, I mean, Google is like designing cars that drive by themselves. I'm pretty sure there was a chip implanted in the back of my head by Google at night when I was sleeping. I mean, they are doing so much out there that it wouldn't surprise me to see them get into the CRM business. I really do hope that Google, they're a great company, but I do hope they focus themselves a little bit more on the application that they think, that they do a few things really well instead of trying to do so many different things. Long answer to a short question. Wouldn't surprise me if they ultimately get into the CRM business. They seem like they're getting into a bunch of other businesses.
Okay, one thing, when I spent some time at your site, Gene, I noticed that you do or host a lot of webinars in your marketing efforts.
Okay, did you do research for this interview?
I might have done a little bit, maybe a little.
Pretty good.
But a lot, and I mean, you've got a full calendar full of webinars for every product and service that you offer.
Yep.
So do you find these effective? And if so, can you explain how these mean more business to your company? And the second part of the question is, what tools do you use to make the most of these webinars?
Well, here's the thing that I found out about webinars. It doesn't make a difference if nobody comes to your webinars. If you're holding a webinar and like the crickets are chirping because nobody is showing up, it's okay. You don't have to have 100 people at your webinar to be a successful webinar. We do webinars on all of the different products that we sell, add-on products that we demonstrate, so they're like salesy, and then we do training webinars. So we send out a newsletter every month. So say you get my Microsoft CRM newsletter, you can come to our webinar at the end of the month, and we'll go through the tips on that online. It's like 30 minutes long and it's free. Sometimes we get 2 people that come to a webinar. Sometimes we get 50 or 60 people that come to a webinar. It doesn't make a difference. And here's the reason why. If people sign up for a webinar, that tells you that they've got an interest, some type of an interest in the product. So it's all about the sign up. So whether they show up or not, I could care less, because if they signed up, they've raised their hand already, and we can follow up with them to see if we can help them out or answer their questions and maybe help them with the product, right?
Okay.
But even if people don't come to the webinar, it's something to talk about, So you've got a webinar going on some certain topic. It's another reason for you to send out an email, another conversation topic for you to have, another thing to say to a client or a prospective client, like, oh, hey, by the way, we're doing a webinar next week on this topic. You might be interested. It's something to talk about. It gives the appearance to people that you got stuff going on, you're interested, you're trying to provide that information. It's goodwill and it's good credibility. So we have all these scheduled during the month, and I'm telling you, when we do our webinars this month, there will be some that get nobody that come to them. There will be some that just get a handful. There'll be some that will get a few dozen or 40 or 50. But it doesn't matter. To us, it's really good because it serves the purpose of getting people to raise their hands and just gives us something to talk about. Now, as far as the tools that we use, right? Very, very simple stuff. And by the way, there's some other ones I need to look into. For example, we use a product called glance.net, which we love. It's like $50 a month. It hosts our service hosts 20 to 30 people online at the same time, which maybe it's not even supposed to, but it does. It's a desktop sharing application. We've used it for 5 or 6 years, and contrary to a lot of other stuff, it actually works. So we use that to host the webinar. So we send out an email, use this Glance address, and use this password, and you're on. And we have a free conferencecall.com phone number. And that always works as well. So we do it really, on the cheap. Now there's some other
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. And there's other services like Join Me and CrossLoop and other desktop sharing that might even be less expensive, which I have not really researched recently, and I really should because it would save me a few bucks. But those services work really, really good. Now, the downside to a Glance is you can't. It doesn't email out. It doesn't schedule stuff in advance. It doesn't track and have reports and metrics and all that kind of stuff of who went and who didn't and whatever. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of a conferencing service.
Okay.
But for us, they're fine. For the 5 people, for the 20, for the 30 people that show up, it's always worked really well.
And why did you choose that, say, over GoToMeeting, if I can ask?
Beats me. It was probably a cost, at the time. And it's funny, too, because GoToMeeting is great. And I haven't reevaluated GoToMeeting in the past couple of years, so for all I know, it's cost comparable and it's even better. At the time it was good. The cost was pretty good. I mean, it's there's so much you can do in a day, and I should probably revisit the technology I'm using for this stuff, but my list of things to do is just it's not as high up on it. It works, so I'm okay with it.
Very good. We're getting ready to take just a short break, and when we come back we'll have more with Gene Marks, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
GFI software provides a single source for networking, security, monitoring, and hosted IT solutions for small to medium enterprises. GFI's extensive suite of award-winning on-premise solutions includes anti-spam, email security, email archiving, endpoint antivirus, centrally managed backup, event log management, server-based faxing, network monitoring, removable device control, vulnerability scanning and patch management, and web filtering and security. GFI also offers a suite of hosted solutions including email security and continuity, frontline email defense, and monitoring and remote management. With award-winning technology, an aggressive pricing strategy, and a strong focus on the unique requirements of small to medium-sized enterprises, GFI software can satisfy your needs on a global scale. Please visit us online at www.gfi.com.
And we're back with Gene Marks. He is an author, New York Times columnist. He's been on MSNBC, Fox Business, just to name a few. He runs a successful company called the Marks Group. He's a national speaker. And he's talking to us about the joys and pains of running an IT tech business and being a media personality. So now that, Gene, since you've done books, you've written books, which I know is a whole, you probably spend 2 hours just talking about that process.
That's true.
But just out of curiosity, I've heard this before when you write business books, that there's these companies that might contact you to help you make a bestseller list. Have you been contacted or approached by any of those companies?
Yeah. You do get contacted. The publishing industry has really changed a lot. I mean, it's funny when you talk about like making it on a bestseller list. I mean, so the trick is this. I mean, you can write a book and get it published. It shows up on Amazon. And then if you want to take a couple $1,000s of your money, you can buy a bunch of copies of your book the day that it's released on Amazon, and boom, it's going to start showing up on the top of the Amazon bestseller list. And then, stay there for a little bit. Maybe you keep your fingers crossed that it's going to continue to stick,
Yeah.
So, you can do that. I mean, you can sort of, you can make your own. It's also all based on the number of copies that are purchased. There are companies that, consultants that you can hire that will also help you get your book, up there as a big bestseller. I got to tell you, Bruce, so I've written 5 books, right?
Right.
None of them are really great bestsellers. I mean, they each sold about 10,000, 12,000 copies a piece. That's not a lot in the publishing industry,
Right.
So, and it's funny, to make money in book selling, you really have to have a celebrity. You really have to have a following. Jeffrey Gitomer is a really good example. I don't know if you know, he wrote like the Little Red Book of Selling, and he was a big, huge bestseller because, he spends his life on the road speaking, and, he has hundreds of thousands of people that have heard him speak and a database of those people. So when he has a book to sell, boom, he's got a built-in fan base that's going to buy it from him, Those are the kind of people that can really generate sales, for books. What I found with books is that not only do I enjoy writing them, but they help from a marketing standpoint. They help me, of course, when I speak. They help me land speaking gigs. But it's great to write a book and get out there and use it as a marketing tool for your clients. And say, I've written a book on, best ways to help technology grow your business or something like that. And then offer it to your clients at a discount or for free or whatever. It's credibility, and it's really nice, and people appreciate that.
Well, let me ask you about your newest book, In God We Trust, Everyone Else Pays Cash. By the way, that's
Gene Shepard.
Yeah, a lot of these little restaurants, for whatever reason, in Indiana, will have one of the little sign that says that on above the wall. Why don't you share a little bit about that book and what it's about?
It is. It was the easiest book to write because I took the 100 or so best columns that I wrote in the past couple of years for Forbes and Business Week and American City Business Journals, and I put them all into this book. So it's really sort of the best of my writings over the past couple of years. And then I have a new version coming out in May, which is In God We Trust, Everyone Else Pays Cash, but it's updated for 2011. So I brought other columns I've just written in the past year to keep it current and all of that, and just sort of new information that's come out. So that's really what it is. And really what it's designed to do is to give a chuckle, education, entertainment, all sorts of different advice and things that other clients of mine and people are doing in 2 or 3 pages of little tips to help you run your business.
Right.
And you read it and you come out of it, hopefully, with a few ideas saying, what, I ought to try that because that could make me a few dollars. And that's what's in the book.
So you've got the books, you've got the columns, you've got all this going on. Has that really helped the bottom line at your CRM and accounting consulting business?
Yeah, it really does.
Okay.
It's added a lot of credibility, but more important than that, it really does provide a lot of leads. Because of the writing that I do and the speaking that I do, people reach out to me and give me their business cards, say they're looking for a CRM system, or they have a question about technology, or they have something like that. It's it's just funny, Bruce, what I've realized over the years, if you stick around long enough and you build enough of a community of people that know you, people say to them, I'm looking for a good IT guy. I need some help with security. I need somebody to configure my email, whatever. If your community is big enough and people have a good enough impression of you, they've seen you speak, or they've seen something that you wrote, or they know you personally, they tend to refer you. And because of those referrals, that really generates a lot of work. So that kind of stuff is really, really good, especially for what I sell, CRM software.
In some ways, I think you and I tend to think alike from the standpoint that I personally hate seeing a small company. And every dollar is precious to a small company.
Yeah.
I hate seeing them buy, wasting money on technology they don't need or could have been done better at a lower price.
I agree. And technology and marketing, one of the chapters in my book, I was writing about my landscaper. This great guy, he comes to my house every week and cuts my lawn and all that. I'm a very lazy guy. But what he does is I got in the mail at one point this 27 color brochure from this guy about all of his landscaping services. It must have cost a fortune. I mean, he mailed it to me and everybody else in his database. So some marketing guy convinced him into doing all of this.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, this guy's coming to my house every week. I mean, he could have a checklist that he gives to his crew and say, check, these 10 things, and whatever you find, go and leave a report on Mr. Marks's door, or knock on his door and say, hey, Mr. Marks, we're walking around your house and we noticed you could use a rearrangement of this, or maybe you'd like this to happen, or we could cut your shrubs here, or whatever. He would generate so much more than what he's hoping to generate from that marketing brochure that I just tossed aside, So I hate it when business owners like myself, kind of toss away money like that because we're just sort of naive or ignorant. Technology and marketing is,
we all pay a stupid tax sooner or later.
We do. That's part of it.
I mean, it's part of the school of hard knocks. Even
it is.
With the best education, we all make mistakes. And, I can't even believe how much money I wasted in advertising using the wrong platform, the wrong media. But it sounded dynamite. Everything on paper looked great, Gene.
Yeah, when it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
Right.
And, another example is
Stupid
AdWords
tax.
from Google, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Google AdWords are, they're excellent. I know that they are. I've never been able to get them to work for me because I did not put the time into really getting them to work well for me. And I know guys, and I've written about guys that really make the time and effort, every day to adjust and tweak and make AdWords work for them. So, Bruce, it's you get out of it what you put into it. And sometimes we all think I'll just write a check and the orders will start raining down on me, and
No,
it's never like that.
It doesn't.
It's always a lot of it.
Yeah, if that was simple, we'd all have an office full of these machines doing that, and we'd come back to piles full of money. It just don't work that way.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So in your business, in your whole life, because you travel and you speak and you've got an office and employees, what do you consider the number one must-have tech item in your arsenal? What is it?
Really, it's funny that you bring that up. One is my phone, of course. I mean, I live on my BlackBerry, and I feel like I'm like in another decade now because I'm saying I still use a BlackBerry when everybody I talk to says, "Oh, you have to be on an iPhone or an Android," and they're probably right. But my phone keeps me really in touch, and I can run my business really off my phone, which is unbelievable that we're doing that nowadays. But as far as other tech items, I traded in my laptop for a netbook, and I also have netbooks for all the people in my company as well. So, I take a netbook. It cost me $250. It's an Asus netbook. I do nothing on it but connect to the internet. I'm slowly going blind and getting arthritis from using it, but it weighs about 2 pounds.
Okay.
And it's fast and it's been reliable, and I rely on it heavily because I'm constantly getting online wherever I am to check my email, to write a column, to work on a quote, something like that. So without that netbook, I would be absolutely dead. So my phone and my netbook are my two big things.
Okay, so you're basically logging into your Microsoft CRM account and doing some stuff.
Well, what we're doing is, I was telling you during the break that we used to have offices until about 6 or 7 years ago, and we shut them down. So now everybody works from their home. I have 10 people that work for me in my company. I have 2 servers in the basement of my house next to my cat's litter box, and we have a virtual private network and Windows Terminal Server.
Okay.
And we all do our work, through Terminal Server, and everybody's connected that way. Now that may change. We partnered with a managed desktop, and server firm in the Philadelphia area for our clients. And I'm thinking seriously of trashing the servers, maybe throwing everything up and let them host it for me.
Oh, how are you going to keep the cats warm?
Data that's that confidential. So
how are you going to keep the cats warm, Gene?
Yeah, I know. It's a good point. That's a good point. You have to find somewhere else. The cat's got the life, believe me.
Oh, for crying out loud! But see that, and that's the kind of cool stuff that small business people do. You sort of just answered a question I had about moving more towards a cloud-based offering, because that's what everybody's talking about, software as a service.
Yeah.
And we know Microsoft's done a great job with CRM because they give you a way to kind of bridge that cloud and fact client by the Outlook connector, which some people use, and that's
right.
cool. What do you see that as a continuing trend, or do you see it a hybrid model? What do you, looking down the road, what do you see?
I guess, first of all, I got like World War II veterans coming up to me and asking me about cloud security and connecting to, offline servers. I mean, something tipped over the past year where all these small business clients of mine, like me, who were like, oh, there's no way I'm putting my stuff up on that cloud. Suddenly, people are like, you know what, this makes a lot of sense and makes more sense. And I think the reason why it tipped is because the generation's going on. And we're all using Facebook and LinkedIn. We're doing a lot of stuff online. And it's just, as people are getting older and entering the workforce, people are saying, well, naturally, we would just host this. It would be common. Having said that, I think what will happen, I can see with my clients, some clients will want their information delivered one way, and other clients will want their information delivered another way.
Right.
So there are just always going to be clients that are going to be like, look, we want to have it internally in our network because that works best for us. And then there are going to be other clients that say, no, we could never have it internally. We really want to have this thing hosted. And here's 3 reasons why that works best for us. So cloud applications, software as a service, they're absolutely part of our environment and will continue to be part of our environment going forward. But I think we'll see the hype kind of slow down a little bit over the next few years, and it'll just be more a question of how do you want this delivered? Do you want to have somebody host it for you, or do you want to have it hosted yourself? You decide what you like best.
Fair enough. You're a pretty busy guy, travel a lot, got a heck of a schedule, so why don't you share some of your best time management tricks with us? You got any tips for us?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about time management, I always look, I use Goldmine for my CRM application, so I have my tasks of stuff to do. And I also have a notebook of stuff to do. I have priorities. So if there is stuff that I need to do that's going to generate me money, that is going to be the number one priority. So whatever I have on a list of stuff to do, if that involves following up with a client or doing a quote or doing a demo or something like that, those take my priorities. Those are the number one things that I want to work on. Okay. So that's the first thing I do when I talk about time management. The second thing is that I prioritize client over non-clients. So when I have a list of emails to send and I have a list of calls I got to make that day, I always look to it and say, okay, I want to give first priority to my clients, even if it's a prospective client. My clients always get answered, first. And even like this, Bruce, I mean, look, we've scheduled this and rescheduled this a few times.
Right.
And, and I apologize for that. There's
no problem.
This is really fun to do. But in each one of those cases, it was some client meeting or something that had to do with something that was, no offense, more important. It was my clients. And that's how I prioritize stuff, So that's what I do. The other thing, just, and again, you talk about as every small business owner works 7 days a week. And that just always happens. So I do go into each day, particularly the weekends, with specific priorities I want to get done. Like when I go into a Friday, I do say by Monday, I want to make sure I have these 6 things done sometime over the weekend. And if I focus on I break down a lot of things into a small group of things, it helps me get them done.
All right. Looks like our video, we're having just a little bit of video difficulty right at the moment. This happens. So I tell you what, Gene, we're pretty much have gotten through most of this anyway. So I just want to ask you one more question before, because I know you're a real busy guy. And that is this. We always love when we get an entrepreneur, business expert on the show. We always like to pick your brain, okay?
Okay.
So here's my question to you. If you could only offer one piece of business advice, right, to somebody, and that's it, you can only offer one, what would that piece of advice be?
My advice is to keep your life in balance. So whatever you decide to do with your life, balance it between the things that you love and the things that are important to you. I've seen too many business guys reach financial success only to completely ruin their personal lives. And I've seen other guys be too lazy and sacrifice a lot of financial rewards. So find a balance so that you're not screwing up those parts in your life that are most important to you. And the second thing I can say is to really succeed in business, just do what you say you're going to do. There are too many people in the world that don't do that. And if you do what you say you're going to do, and you know it inside that you're doing what you say you're going to do, you'll be okay.
Fair enough. I do have a personal question, though. And that is, how do you find, that was actually my last question, but I need to know the answer to this. How do you find, hire and retain talent there at your shop?
I overpay them. That's really
that was not an answer I'm expecting, Gene.
Okay. I pay my people more than I know they would get elsewhere. I give them days off more than I think other people get days off, and I also leave them with a lot more of their own decision making. Like, I don't breathe down their necks. So I try to say, look, go ahead and find another job that'll pay you as good as this, where you have as much flexibility and as much decision making that you have. If you can, that's great, good for you. But it's almost like you run your business. Go ahead and find some other product that is better than my product or my services. I dare you. I feel it's the same way with my employees. Try and find someplace else that gives you that kind of freedom and flexibility and compensation. So, long answer to a short question, but I overpay them, and that works.
See, now I'm going to have a mutiny on my hands. Thanks a lot, Gene. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem, Bruce.
No, but actually, there was a comment in the chat room, actually from a friend of mine, a friend of the show, and who says it's actually the best thing an employer could do as long as the employee realizes it. True,
and look, I think if your employees are smart enough, hopefully they do realize that. But the market will tell them, right? So I know what I pay. I have a really good bookkeeper who works for me 3 days a week, just to give you an idea, and I overpay her. And she's smart enough to know, because I'm sure, like everybody else, she's looked around for other work at different times. She knows when she's getting paid by me and the flexibility she has and all of that. And then I guess she goes out and she looks in the paper or in Craigslist or whatever for anything else. And I think she can do the math. So you got to leave it up to your employee to figure out what's best for them.
No, absolutely. You ever going to look into tablets by any chance?
It's a good question. I actually looked into buying a tablet, and I do so much typing that the actual tablet itself wasn't going to work for me. Now there's the keyboards that you can attach to the tablet, right? And I thought, okay, but again, I travel around. It's just like an extra piece, an accessory that I have to use,
Yeah.
So for now, for the next year or two, I'll stick with the netbook, but that doesn't mean that I won't be back. Whatever makes me work faster, that's what I want.
Well, fair enough. Gene, it's been great having you on as a guest on our show today. And
yeah, Bruce, me too. This is fun, really fun.
You know what? I love it. Can you imagine what putting on a show like this would have cost before the advent of Skype?
It's funny that you also say that. I don't want to extend it too much, but my father, besides the worst accounting software that he ever made, he used to sell accounting software, and he would sell back. This is back in the 1960s. So he would travel to across the country and take 2 days to set up the servers, the mainframes, the whatever, to do his demos. Can you imagine that? Only to be told no, they're not going to buy. So, you're right. To do this show over Skype is just incredible stuff. To do webinars and training, we're so lucky to have this kind of technology.
I mean, you just have. I can't even imagine production costs years ago, and here we can actually do this. For more or less at no cost, other than our time,
and great quality.
And it's really getting better all the time. Yeah, I made an investment in some pretty good cameras and some decent audio hardware, but the ability for you to be, I actually did an interview with a fellow in Australia in the back seat of he was actually in the front seat of his car using a 3G connection with Skype, and we actually were able to get decent video and sound.
That's amazing.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's just amazing. And then another guy was on a ship at sea. A ship at sea, and we did an interview from the deck of a freighter. It's just
good. Well, at least it was a freighter, and it wasn't like a Royal Caribbean. Because if somebody's talking to you from a cruise, Bruce,
not good. Yeah, I agree.
That guy's way too committed.
He's way too committed, or he is already lit, as they say.
That's also true. Nobody knows what he would have said.
But at any rate, any last words that you might want to share with the audience?
No, I again, all the stuff that I'm doing is it's not that, I don't want to say that it's not that impressive. All I want to do is be busy during the day. So I found some things that I really like to do and make some money at it and hopefully keep myself balanced. Different people have different aspirations. And it gets back to what you and I were talking about, Bruce, before the show. I mean, you love doing the video production that you're doing right now. You love doing the show. And whether it's wildly profitable or just a little bit profitable, it's still worth it for you to do. And I think everybody watching this should say to themselves, it's a short time here on Earth, just as long as you can make a little money at what you do and really enjoy it and have some balance. To me, I think that's what it's all about.
There's no trick. You've got to love what you're doing.
Right.
There's nothing worse than having I did not go into business to create a job for myself, Gene.
That's right.
I can get a job somewhere else.
Exactly right. You're exactly right.
There you go. Do what, Cindy? I should apply at Gene's place. He overpays. That would be tough to take. I can make decisions.
Bruce, I'll let you know if Cindy sends me a resume, okay?
Yeah, would you do that? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today's show, Gene.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks. And thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Gene. Thank you so much.
You take care, too.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
And there we go. Click. That was Gene Marks, and that was such a fun interview. What a great guy.
Yeah, very nice.
Upbeat and smiles and really enjoys what he's doing. Corn Doggy, we're going to ask him if he's hiring. Right? I mean, why not? Just a remarkable guest. It was a lot of fun. It took a couple months. 'Cause actually, we only agreed to a half an hour.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so we kept him on for the bulk of the hour. That's fine. I can actually take these off now. These Sony.
Well, I guess I can take these off.
These are Sony MDR 7506 headphones, and they are so nice and comfortable. But even with these things, after about an hour, they start to being a little hot on the ear.
Well,
of course, there's I could get the earbud. I don't like earbud type headphones.
Right.
I just don't like them. A lot of people love them. I, for one, I just don't.
Right.
But that was a whole lot of fun. And before we go, a couple pieces of business to take care of. Number one, I'm giving away a Apple iPod Touch in conjunction with our sponsor, Lifeboat Distribution. We're going to do it Tuesday, May the 31st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In order to win, you must be a resident within the United States. Number two, follow us on Justin TV. Number three, follow us on YouTube. Then be here on Tuesday, May the 31st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we're going to ask a question that you can easily locate on the Lifeboat Distribution website. The first person to email me back with the correct answer will be the winner of this beautiful Apple iPod Touch 32 gigabyte model. So you want to make sure that you get squared away for that. Next Sunday for Business Computing Weekly, our good friend John Atkinson is going to be taking the guest spot. And then here, I'm thinking on the 24th, I think that's on a Sunday, we had such a great time with Dizzy Doug. And he has a lot more to talk about, especially with videography, which is, I think, talking about cameras and especially HD cameras and all that is going to be interesting. And he wants to come back on the show and kind of pick up on that conversation about videography because, there's more to tech than just computers. I mean, there's televisions, there's video game consoles, there's all kinds of stuff. But videography, if you're into photography or video, Dizzy Doug is, and so he'll be back talking to us about that as well. Oh, thank you, Corn Dog. He also mentioned follow us on Twitter. So, right, there's 3 places to follow: Twitter, Justin TV, and YouTube. Thank you, Mr. Corn Dog. It's always good to have a friend in the chat room. I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the day. So thanks, everybody, for coming by. We'll see you on Sunday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, for another edition of Business Computing Weekly. Remember, it's in your shop, not making you money or saving you money. Get it out of there. It's Bruce Naylor, Frugal Tech. We'll talk to you later.